Welcome to the Explainer. Right now, inside your body, there's this incredible microscopic army fighting a constant invisible war just to keep you alive. So today, we're going to open the briefing on that amazing defense force, your immune system. So let's start at the very beginning. The word immunity itself? It comes from the Latin word immunitas, which basically means freedom from disease. At its absolute core, it is your body's built-in resistance to any kind of invader, whether that's a virus, some bacteria, or really any foreign substance trying to stir up trouble. Now, to really get our heads around how all this works, we're going to use a pretty cool analogy. I want you to imagine your body is a bustling nation, and its defense, well, that's a highly sophisticated, multi-layered military force that we call the immune system. Okay, here's our battle plan for today. First, we'll get a quick overview of this whole defense force. Then, we'll meet the first responders on the scene. That's the innate system. After that, we'll call in the elite special ops of the acquired system. We're also going to see how they communicate, and finally, we'll zoom out to see what all this means for the entire community. All right, let's deploy. So think of your body as a country, one that's constantly facing potential threats from the outside. To protect its citizens, which are, your cells, it's developed this incredible defense network with two major branches. On one side, you have your innate immunity. Think of this as your border patrol and your local police force. They're always on duty, they respond incredibly fast, but they react to just general signs of trouble, not specific criminals. But on the other side, you've got acquired immunity. These are your special ops and your intelligence agencies. Now, they take a bit longer to mobilize, but their response is custom designed for a specific enemy. It's incredibly powerful, and, this is the most important part, they remember every single enemy they've ever faced. So let's meet that first line of defense. These are the tireless guardians at the gates, right? The immediate responders of your innate immune system. And believe me, they are the very first to know when something is wrong. The main thing to get about the innate system is that it's just that, inborn. You have it from the moment you are born. It doesn't need to learn anything or go through training. It's basically pre-programmed and ready to act within minutes of a pathogen even thinking about showing up. You can see its whole strategy here is just speed, speed, speed. The innate system, it doesn't care if it's seen this particular invader before, because it has no memory. It just recognizes a general, hey, you're not supposed to be here threat pattern, and attacks immediately. It's a blunt approach for sure, but a very, very effective first response. And it has a whole arsenal at its disposal. We're talking physical walls, like your skin. We're talking cellular patrol units called phagocytes that literally eat invaders, and natural killer cells that take out your own cells that have been compromised. It also uses inflammation, that redness and swelling you see, as a protective response to call for backup and contain the threat. But, sometimes an intruder is just too clever, or maybe too strong for the local police. When a threat gets past that first line of defense, the nation has to call in its elite forces. Yeah, it's time to activate the acquired immune system. And just look at the complete change in strategy. The acquired system is way slower, sometimes taking days or even weeks to get going. And that's because it needs time to study the enemy. It develops a highly specific plan of attack, and crucially, it creates a memory of that attacker. So the next time that same enemy shows up, the response is going to be devastatingly fast and powerful. So how does this special ops team get its training? Well, there are two main ways. First, there's natural active immunity. This is when you get an infection, like the measles, and your body wins the fight. It learns from a real-world battle. The second way is artificial active immunity, which is what we all know as vaccination. This is like a highly realistic training simulation, where the body learns to defeat an enemy without ever having to fight a full-blown war. One of its main strategies is called the humoral response. This is like deploying millions of tiny, precision-guided missiles called antibodies. Basically, B cells identify the enemy. Then they transform into these little antibody factories. We call them plasma cells. And they just start pumping out these weapons to hunt down and neutralize invaders that are floating freely in your body fluids. But what happens if the enemy is hiding inside your own cells, which is what viruses love to do? For that, you need a ground force. And that's the cell-mediated response. Your infected cells will actually raise a red flag, and then specialized T cells acts like an elite squad, going door to door to find these compromised cells and eliminate them before the infection can spread any further. And this is absolutely the crucial point. The Border Patrol and the Special Ops, they aren't two separate armies. No way. They are two branches of the same defense force, and they are in constant communication to mount a totally coordinated defense. This communication happens through a few key bridges. Probably the most important are the antigen-presenting cells. I want you to think of these as scouts from the innate system. They capture a piece of the enemy, they travel to military command, and they present this intelligence to the T cells, basically telling the Special Ops, hey, this is your target. Go get them. Okay, so far we have been totally focused on the defense of one single nation, your body. But what happens when we zoom out and think about the entire global alliance of nations, right? How does one country's defense affect its neighbors? This brings us to a really important concept, herd immunity. It's this idea that if enough individuals in a population have their defenses up and are resistant to a pathogen, it creates this kind of protective barrier. This makes it much, much harder for that pathogen to spread, which protects everyone, but especially the most vulnerable members of the community, who maybe can't mount a strong defense on their own. And it turns out one of the most powerful ways we have to build this community-wide defensive shield is through widespread vaccination. When most of the nations have trained their special ops against a particular threat, well, that threat simply has nowhere left to go. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If your personal immune system is your own nation's defense force, protecting you as an individual, it's also a crucial part of a much larger, interconnected global defense network. And understanding how it works for you really reveals just how much our collective health truly depends on each other.